I don't like the poetry of Wallace Stevens, but I do like one of his poems, not because I think it's a good poem, but because it is an interesting thought exercise. I think that Wallace Stevens, based on this one poem, ought to have quit his job and become a Zen monk. And he only wrote poetry because he could not bring himself to renounce all of his earthly goods. But he has a poem called 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird. And there are no blackbirds out here. Not New England, this is not Connecticut. But there are falling leaves. And this is a very pastoral, poetical setting. Out here in the falling leaves of a November day. And I'm not trying to get poetical. I'm not trying to write the poetry that I think Wallace Stevens ought to have written. Rather, I'm engaged in the kind of thinking which if you like thinking, and something you might notice about thinking is that unlike the written word, a sentence, as you are speaking it aloud, is never fully written until you've said it, and therefore thought it. A big reason why people find it hard to talk, either over YouTube or in real life, is because they're trying to write their sentences in their heads and evaluate them before they say them out loud. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. There's absolutely, in fact, it's a good thing to do if what you're evaluating your words for is that they are adequately conveying whatever it is you are hoping to adequately convey. However, if instead of trying to adequately convey something, some mood, some atmosphere, some subject, right now I'm walking, my bare feet on the ground, trying to avoid dog turds out on this November day, out on this autumn day. And it's a beautiful day at the park. And what I am hoping to convey through speech is my thoughts, whatever they might be. It's very open-ended here on YouTube. But for the sake of example, let's pretend I was being paid good money to present a lecture in a lecture hall on a topic. For instance, I don't want to pick Wallace Stevens because I already feel like I picked on him too much. But let's think of let us. You see, I'm already getting into the mode of a lecturer. Let us then, therefore, class, think then, shall we? Of a topic. A topic. I'll think of a topic. the role Pol Pot played in 20th century gay erotic fan fiction. To pick blindly from the hat of possible topics. And so I would say, assuming this was I was being paid good money to talk about this. I would say, well, first of all, Pol Pot is a character originally created by God in the 20th century. Not one of God's greatest creations, you might think, you might posit, merely because he had a hand in destroying so many of other of God's creations. So many human beings fell under the slaughtering machete of Pol Pot. And yet, dear class, his role, his presence in 20th century gay erotic fan fiction has been non-pareil. You see how quickly words and subjects and thoughts turn to the absurd, turn to things that have no reference in reality. I mean, look at a leaf. There it is, a leaf. Or look at a tree. A tree. Look at a bike. Look at a man. Now look at a man. Not really look at a man. Or look at a woman. You see one up there in the clouds? Maybe she's there. Look at the sun. Look at anything that has a reference in the real world. Look at a field. Look at the color green. Now you can't really look at the color green because green is a quality that other things have. Green is a color. A color is a type of quality. And all objects have qualities. Leaves all have qualities. See? This leaf has many, many qualities. It is beautiful. It is aerodynamic. It is twinkly. It'd be very easy to destroy this leaf right now. It's fragile, and yet it's a beautiful little leaf. And I will not destroy it. Yet. In any case, I hope this has been a thoroughly educational video. Goodbye. Thoughts are a lot like trees. I'm looking at a tree right now. I'm looking at the top of a tree right now. This tree, well, there's a continuous arc being made, almost to the ground. From the grassy, horizontal ground, there's a parabolic arc being made through a blue sky right now, and there I see a tree. But if I look lower, I notice that the first part of the arc is made. I'll show it. The first part of the arc, here's the arc. First part is made by this tree. See? This is its own tree. And the second part of the arc is made by this tree. See? But I didn't notice that at first, because I was just looking at this. And I think these are the same kinds of trees. One is I was about to say that one is the father tree and one is the son tree. You know this old saying that the apple does not fall far from the tree, which means that the son imitates the father, or doesn't so much imitate as comes from the father and is therefore the same, simply because a son is a son of a father. But this tree doesn't have a clear father. I don't see another bigger tree up here, because if you kept on going, I don't think trees even grow that high. Reductio ad absurdum. Reductio ad absurdum. This is the father tree. This is the original tree. And thoughts are a lot like trees. Thoughts are a lot like trees, because thoughts also have trunks and leaves and sometimes fruit. And thoughts are also a lot like trees, because every thought, if it is a good thought, will flower off into many other thoughts. In the gospel, Jesus talked of the sower sowing seeds. And some seed fell on rocky soil and was burned up in the sun. And some seed fell in thorns and grew for a time, but was choked out by the thorns. And some seed fell on on good soil. And whenever you're trying to talk about anything, describe anything, one is acting as a kind of gardener. A gardener of thoughts. Little thought bushes, thought shrubs, thought brambles. And a good gardener will try to weed his garden. He will try to separate the weeds from the plants that he wants to grow. And what's the difference between a weed and a good plant? Well, it depends. Oftentimes, a weed is simply a plant that does not have adequate space to grow, and thus will choke out other adjacent plants. If you're trying to grow rose bushes, then you don't want linwood tree seed mixed in with the soil where you've planted your rose bush seeds, because the linwood trees will grow faster and you won't have any roses then. Won't have any roses. So why are there roses? Why are there good things? Why are there good thoughts? Why are there good people, relatively speaking? Because there is good soil. There is adequate space. There was thoughtful consideration given to how different people, different objects, different thoughts, different creations were given space to grow. Why are there no more figures, one might posit? One being me. Like Shakespeare or Dante, or people like this who are so beloved, or Galileo, or such things. Perhaps it is simply that there are too many weeds. You see, right there I was interrupted by a telephone call. In the middle of a great thought that I was having. You see, I guess I can't be the next Shakespeare. I guess I can't be the next Galileo. I guess I can't be the next whatever. Because the year is 2021 of my Lord, and my Lord has not seen fit to provide the soil for such mighty oak trees as may have grown in the gardens of my father's fathers. Woe is me. Woe is me. Or maybe that's wrong. And maybe, there's just a lot more weeding to be done. Than people want to do. AKA, i.e., I.E. Man, people don't just want to get on their socks and do it. People don't want to get in their socks and shoes and go on and do it. It's like the question of why there aren't great novelists, why there aren't great playwrights, movie directors. I mean, sure. Woe is me. Woe is me. But is anything great? Would we call is something great? Is anything great because it was manicured to be great? Or pedicured to be great? Or is greatness itself simply the will to persevere in spite of all? In spite of all. In spite of everything. Everything. Everything and all. That would stand in the way of greatness. Stop standing in the way of greatness, you guys. You see, you can't have that attitude. Or you can, but that's a very non-great, very ungrateful, but also just a very pusillanimous attitude. Dude. As well. I am the choir, and I'm preaching to me. And I have to be preaching to me, I suppose, if I care about greatness. Because greatness is not a self-seeking thing, if it's truly great. Shakespeare didn't become Shakespeare because he wanted to be known as Shakespeare. Same with any of the greats. Same with any of the people I listed. Same with even more basic people. With more basic forms of greatness. Because this is a great leaf. This is like, it's not a great living leaf. But, obviously, but as far as like falling leaves go, a leaf that may fall down in autumn. I mean, I suppose this leaf could be a nice, amber hue. But I've seen worse. I've seen a lot worse. And so, point is, I guess, that there's the greatness of a leaf, of a fallen leaf, but greatness is a quality. Greatness is a quality that that is unlike the quality of color. As I said before, that color is a type of quality too, but greatness is a quality like beauty, in that it is not something that is clearly, clearly the purview of a certain sense, perception. So color, green, blue, etc., are all qualities of the visual world. If you were blind, then you would not care about colors. Or maybe you would. And you should. But you would not be able to see them. And people could, if you were blind, people could dress you in turquoise and mauve and tie-dyed black and white and parade you throughout the town, and as long as it all felt normal, you might not realize that you were being made a right fool of in the town parade. Similarly, there are those who are blind to beauty. We are all blind to beauty, actually, to some extent, because we all hurry. Our perceptions rather, are narrowed. Our perceptions are narrowed based on our perceptions are narrowed because we are hurrying, because things around us are hurrying or are hurried. And the beauty of a fallen leaf is most beautiful for a mere moment when it is fallen. Of course, if this was a movie, I could do this and pretend that the leaf had just fallen fresh. But you all know that that's not true. That that's just a little bit of movie magic. And if I wanted to, I could go like this. And make the leaf fall like that. And the real problem with beauty is that human beings can manipulate beauty. can make things seem more beautiful than they are. Can seem, because beauty is first and foremost a property of vision. Beauty, you can then go on to talk about the beauty in a more analogical way. The beauty of a sonata, the beauty of a novel, the beauty of a day. But beauty remains fundamentally something that is perceived with the eye. So one advances from something like color to something like beauty, which, though it is visual, has to do with more than mere vision, has to do with collections of visions and how they cohere. Much like thoughts, much like trees, much like leaves. Beauty is a property of a world in flux, and the beautiful is only beautiful. The beautiful, capital B, beautiful, is only beautiful because it transcends vision. If all there was using vision as a tool to maneuver the world so you didn't bump into things, so you could find adequate foodstuffs and liquid resources for sustenance and propagation, then there'd be no sense in talking about beauty. Except insofar as one wanted to use the beautiful for baser ends. And there are many people, in fact all people, I would say, to some extent, prostitute their own beauty, I mean literal prostitutes, but also in a more casual sense, in a more flippant kind of sense even. Beauty becomes a kind of, can become, ought not to become, but can become. Ought not to become because beauty is rendered ugly eventually. You know, a prostitute, a whore of Babylon, a Jezebel can only fool the eye for a time, for a season. And then, when that season is ended, it is revealed that that beauty was a sham. Not because it did not derive from genuine beauty. The beauty of a woman, like the beauty of a flower, like the beauty of a man, like the beauty of a sunset. It's derived from nature, from God, from the source of all, from the One. But anyway, goodness. The good goes beyond even beauty. Beauty is the servant of the good. Beauty ought to be the servant of the good. Beauty ought to adorn the good. But when beauty is prostituted, then the good is unadorned. The great is unadorned. Even while people worship great figures of the past, say, beauty or greatness is subverted if it is worshipped in a man. If you worship greatness in a man and a human being, then you have subverted. Then you are subverting greatness, and you are missing the boat. You're missing the voyage beyond this mortal coil, you could say. For is it not the case that all that lives dies, all that flourishes perishes? And so why concern oneself with any of it? Why not be totally selfish? If not for the fact that is total stupidity, that selfishness is stupid and to be regarded with contempt. The selfish person is like the prostitute, is like a selfish person. I mean, not talking about people dragged into prostitution, you understand. Those who willingly willingly make a deal with the devil and exchange something lesser, or exchange something greater for something lesser. And so to shoot up into the heavens, either as a tree or as a thought, or as a man, tie your shoes and walk the blues, because no one's going to walk them for you. Or rather, the footsteps trod at Calvary must be retrod by us. As St. Paul puts it, I make up for in my body what is lacking in the suffering of Christ. A very Zen kind of phrasing, because there is nothing lacking in the suffering of Christ. And yet there is a lot lacking in the suffering of Christ if we do not understand it, if we do not, that is, embody it, if we do not live it, if we do not walk in those very self-same footsteps up Golgotha. Am I wrong? Or am I right? Tell me in the comment section below.